Monday Night Wars Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Monday Night Wars. It is February 17th, 1997, and we are live with WCW Nitro. And we are at the, what the hell? Well, it's at the Florida State Fairgrounds, but it's the Steinbrenner Entertainment Hall at the Florida State Fairgrounds. Like Steinbrenner? I don't know. Anyways, it's in Tampa, Florida. And also in Tampa, Florida is Joseph Rojas. Joseph, how you doing?
I am not in Tampa, Florida. I don't know if I'd be caught dead in Tampa, Florida, to be honest. Well, I guess we do have to go to Tropicana Field for our thing at some point. But hopefully the Rays will not be there anymore by the time we make it out there.
They'll be the Expos.
Dude, that'd be so great. Also, huge thing. I mean, hey Scott.
Yes.
How is your Valentine's, man? You have a nice Valentine's with your wife?
We don't do things on Valentine's Day. You're going to learn this, young man, and anyone who gets married, that at some point you've been together so long, you're like, there's just too many people. I don't want to do that.
I've been with Jamie since you have been married, I'm pretty positive.
I've been with my wife for 16 years, though, total.
Yeah, like I didn't say in total the same amount of time. I just said since you've been married.
We got a gift card, because we like to do it up. We got a gift card to Red Lobster and Olive Garden, so we might hit up one of those in a couple of days.
That's romantic as fuck, bro.
Yeah, for like a post Valentine's Day, but no, we didn't do anything the day of. What did you do, my friend? Because I know you did something. I saw you.
Yeah,
we went Facebook.
We went to this place. If you're ever in San Antonio, this place called Brenner's. It's a steakhouse. I don't know why it took me so long to figure out that fucking word. And it's really good. It's very snooty. Very I get imposter syndrome in places like this. I grew up super poor. You know this. And so going to like a really, ritzy place, it's like, all right, okay.
You're trying to sneak the bones into your pocket because you're going to get a stew going at home and you just don't want to see them. I get it.
Yeah. Get a broth going. Now you got stew. Yeah, absolutely.
You said you were at Brenner's?
Yeah, Brenner's in San Antonio. Proud sponsor of the podcast.
So, but that's not Steinbrenner Entertainment Hall at the Florida State Fairgrounds.
Dude, I love how you just fucking tied that together.
Yeah, which is where we are for Nitro. And we got Tony, and we got Larry, and we got the NWO. We're starting right off. It's in the parking lot. They're all spilling out. Anything you want to say about this?
Well, they spill out and, they're walking in and they kind of go around like this production truck. They go around it and they're walking in. They kind of hear something behind them and they're like, well, what happened? And they turn around and they go back around that production truck. And it turns out one of the members is down on the ground and they can't figure out why. We do find out later that this member is Big Bubba, who was knocked out. We don't initially know this. That's kind of hard to see who it is.
Yeah, they kind of
shoot the white guy.
They kind of shoo us away. They don't want us to know.
Yeah. We find out later on it was Big Bubba. I think that Big Bubba is actually hurt right now. So they were just like, this is a good way to kind of write you off for a little bit while you kind of get taken care of. I think this was what happened. But it's cool. It's really like, oh, hey, who did this? And that will kind of be playing out through the night. Like, who is the person who could have done this? And I like that. I like the intrigue. It makes me happy.
It gives us something because, I've been complaining that the NWO just seems unstoppable and it's kind of boring, right? So the fact that someone is taking them out, kind of interesting. I like it. But what I also like is Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Super Calo. We're getting some of that cruiserweight right off the bat. Tell me about this 6-minute banger.
This is a fun match, and Super Calo looks better than we've kind of seen him to this point. He's been pretty sloppy in most of his appearances. looks quite crisp and clean. I don't know if it was maybe some of the pressure of having to perform on live TV in America. I don't know. I don't know what it could have been. But now he seems to have kind of figured it out. And of course, you know what's going to happen in a match like this. Super Cal has not been a huge feature of WCW. He's just kind of been here and there. Rey Mysterio, however, has been a huge feature. So he hits the Rana, and it was over. Rey says to the camera, "I am ready for you, Regal. Why don't you come and try me? I'm better than ever." I gave this a B. We know that Regal and Rey Mysterio, they kind of started a rivalry last week over the TV title. And so that's going to start, continuing on this week. And I like that Rey Mysterio is like, "Hey, let's keep it going." You love when they talk into the camera, because this is not on a mic. He just talks straight into the camera. So you kind of actually have to hear it. If there's noise going on in the house, you may not. But I thought it was good. Ray's not really a promo guy, so this works. This is very nice and sweet and to the point, and that they are rivals.
Ray is kind of, it's probably not right to say he's one of the pioneers of talking into the camera, but he does it. Like, he's one of the guys that does it the most, and he's been doing it since the beginning. And you're right. I really do like when they talk into the camera and they talk into the onboard mic on the camera, because it feels real, It allows me to kind of suspend my disbelief a little bit. It's not like hold on, let me get a mic real fast, that seems more staged. This seems real. It seems off the cuff. I really like when they do that. Steven Regal and Ray are going to be at Super Brawl. Tony reminds us of that. And apparently there's going to be no time limit on that match. So.
Oh, whoa. They can go past 6 minutes and 24 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah. The well-known rule of 6 minutes and 23.7 seconds. Yeah. But anyways, we just keep rolling, because WCW likes to jam as many matches in as they can. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I feel like that's a record.
Nope.
What is the record?
The record is 13. We've been over this.
I don't think you ever gave me a number before. You just said you couldn't remember.
It's on the podcast. We've had this conversation multiple times.
Bullshit. Well, let's get back to it, because I don't want to dwell on your lies and deceit. That's not what people are here for.
Lies and slander.
That's not what people are here for. What people are here for are Steve, Mongo McMichael, and Hugh Morris matches. So.
You couldn't even get that out.
Yeah, the wind just kind of came out of my sails. 4 minutes, 21 seconds. Tell me.
Hugh Morris has a wild electric guitar rock theme that he has never had to this point. You may have noticed in the last few weeks, Conan's got a new theme and Hugh Morris has a new theme. Neither of them has been officially written out of the Dungeon of Doom, so I don't know what's going to happen with that, or how they're going to do that, or if they're just not going to ever address it. So we'll kind of see in the upcoming weeks what happens. But they are still part of the Dungeon of Doom at this point. It's announced that the Steiners will not be in the Four Corners match because they were injured in an automobile accident after last Nitro. It's hypothesized this was the NWO. During the match, Mongo hits the ugliest electric chair drop and apparently hurt his knee. Morris goes for his moonsault, which commentary lets us know is called No Laughing Matter. 2 years into the debut of Nitro. He's been doing it for years. We finally get a name for it. Deborah slid the Halliburton into Mongo, who lays it on his chest while Morris hits the moonsault. Morris's head connects and he's knocked out, and Mongo wins. I will say, creative ending to the match. I thought that was quite impressive, but most of this match is very boring, and I gave it a D.
Correct. Like I said, I'm always kind of impressed by Hugh Morris's athletic abilities, but yeah, I mean, you do what you can with a Steve Mongo McMichael match. But the important thing is what you said. The Steiner brothers have been injured in an automobile accident. That's scary.
Absolutely.
And there's allegations that the NWO is involved, but surely they're not. I mean, there might be video evidence later that throws some doubt on that, but surely they're not involved.
I mean, we'll just have to wait and see.
We'll just have to wait and see. It's ridiculous. It's actually fantastic. We'll get there.
I love it. Yeah, I genuinely love it.
After that, though, we go back to the commentary table. We're talking about Roddy Piper. Just that he just seems emotionally distraught, maybe just crazy. but they think he has a plan, and he's going to win. You got any thoughts about this, or should we keep rolling?
Well, they do a Roddy Piper vignette as well as part of this. And it's if you remember many, many months ago, I want to say this is like late 95, early 96, when they did the whole Shawn Michaels concussion angle and they did that music video for him. This is like that level, like just sappy, horrible vignette. And so I gave it a D because at least with the Shawn Michaels one, it's funny. With this one, it's just dumb. So I gave it a D for dumb.
Wow. You just don't know talent. I loved it so much I completely forgot about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how you know it's good, because I didn't even bother to write it down. After that is Dean Malenko versus, hold on, let me get my peepers on, Robbie Brookside, who is known professionally as Robbie Brookside. That's it. Apparently, he was a regular tag team partner with Steven Regal in the UK, but
oh, there you go.
But not here. Not here. He's going to get flattened by Dean Malenko. 2 minutes, 54 seconds for the Cruiserweight Championship.
I'm glad you wrote his name down because I couldn't remember his name, and like they don't tell you initially when he comes out, and so I'm glad that you probably found that online when you did that. But Malenko leaves a message.
Don't give away my secrets.
I mean, okay. I don't know how to tell you this, but you've also said that on the podcast
of looking things up on WrestlingFandom.com.
So Malenko leaves a message for Six and says his father trained Six, but in 6 days he will continue his lessons. This one is not to mess with Dean Malenko. I was going to give him credit for the 6 days line, but Chris Jericho used that line quite a few months ago first. And in response to an upcoming pay-per-view, just like Dean did here. So it's not that great. He probably had the exact same producer as that match, and they just told him, no, say this line. And it's like, well, let's play it out now. Anyways, Malenko wins with the Texas Cloverleaf. Like, how did we ever think that was going to happen? And I was going to give this a lower grade, but then Six comes out and says that he has a few things to straighten out. He calls Malenko Mr. Bland Man. Kind of right about that. He says, you think I don't have any respect because your dad trained me? Well, your old man is dead, and that respect died with him. That's a phenomenal line from Six. Fantastic work. He says if he has to come down to ringside to steal the belt just to get a shot, then that's what he'll do, saying Malenko has been ducking him. Malenko charges him and Six runs away. I gave this a C. Most of it is honestly because I thought Six's promo at the end was fantastic.
It's very good, and I'm kind of glad this rivalry is continuing because Malenko needs a good rival, and he has one, I think, in Six.
And he kind of needs one who's got a lot of chutzpah, you know what I mean? Because
charisma.
Yeah, because Malenko ain't got much.
We love Dean for his in-ring performance, not so much for his mic work.
Exactly.
They go to a break, they come back, and we have the NWO, Hall Nash and Six, paying a visit to the commentary table, where they exchange pleasantries with Larry. Which, it's a joke. It's not really pleasant. Scott Hall says he thought Larry would be bigger.
I'm glad you wrote that down. I've got that line.
Yeah, Larry says that he thought Hall would have the guts to come alone. Scott responds that, they heard these two gossiping like broads in a nail salon about this auto accident and these accusations that they were involved. And they say, but we have a videotape that proves that we had nothing to do with this, and we're going to see it later. You got anything else you want to add to this?
Well, I got what I assumed to be your favorite line, knowing everything I know about you that you just don't have written down, which is Nash. He asks if Zbyszko and Shivani are the WCW version of the Warren Commission.
Yeah. For those who don't know, the Warren Commission investigated the JFK assassination. So he is comparing this to the JFK assassination. which
Nash-
is in the news again because apparently they're going to open the war. Trump says he's going to declassify all the stuff relating to the Warren Commission. So who knows? Maybe we'll find out that Larry and Tony were involved, you know?
Dude, could be. But also, Nash always has these weird political lines in his promos. Like, he just drops them all the time. And it's like, they're always things that, like, you have to know or you're not going to get. Like, he seriously overestimates the audience and what they know. But it's great anyways.
Do you think he even cares? I don't
think Nash has given a shit about anybody's opinion ever in his life. And I mean that with a lot of respect.
That's a reference that even at this point in 1997 is like 20, 30 years removed from the incident.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to a wrestling audience in the South.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think, man? Anyways, it was a fun segment.
And I, for one, have to stop people if they're going to try to make a reference to something that happened 2 to 3 years or 20 to 30 years ago that only 1 or 2 people might get.
If that is a veiled criticism to me, I will not hear it and I will not respond to it. Anyways, we got another match. It's Public Enemy and the Amazing French Canadians. 4 minutes, 46 seconds. Tell me.
Harlem Heat are watching in the crowd. Johnny Grunge moves out of the way of the Canadians' finisher. I don't know what it's called. And wouldn't you know it, one of the Canadians goes through a table and Public Enemy wins. I gave it a D.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem, right? I don't feel like either of these teams are bad. It's just the Public Enemy has become so formulaic. It's boring. I don't like it. Anyways, what I do like, though, is we go to Mean Gene and DDP. And Mean Gene wants to know if DDP knows anything about Big Bubba getting laid out. And Paige says, who, me? I got here 10 minutes ago. I don't even know what happened. It seems kind of suspicious, though, Joseph, don't you think?
I mean, I love what DDP does here. He actually asked Gene, like, well, what are you talking about? What happened? So Gene, not convinced, he informs him, and DDP just can't believe it. He's like, oh, I can't believe this. Are you for real right now? Then he denies any knowledge and says he would never want to see something like that happen to another competitor. DDP doesn't understand why Gene's trying to pin this on him. He says he came here to see Pee Wee Herman and Nick Patrick. That Pee Wee Herman reference, by the way, is a reference to Randy Anderson. They will kind of mention that later on in the night as well. Gene asks about Super Brawl, and then DDP says he's worried about Bubba, not Super Brawl. Just a great line from DDP. Like, hey, man, I got a lot of sympathy for this guy, even though this whole organization's been trying to beat the shit out of me for weeks. It's an A+. It's fantastic. DDP sells the hell out of it. You know, we don't know if it was him or not. We genuinely have no idea. I don't think we'll find out in the night if it was him or not. So this just continues the mystery, and he could be tongue-in-cheek lying, but he could also be genuine, and we don't know, and that's great.
Just suspicious. I feel it's just suspicious. And I have to say, Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, in the news.
I mean, not anymore.
Well, he's deceased, but apparently he came out as gay in a documentary that is being released posthumously.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. And to this news that Paul Rubens came out of the closet, I say, when was he ever in?
Yeah. Yeah. That is one of those, like, we okay, I won't name any names, but there was a person in high school who I was friends with, very nice person, and very obviously gay. And then, like, years after high school, came out of the closet, and a few people that I went to high school with were like, could you believe it? I was like, when the fuck was he ever in the closet? Like, what? Everyone knew. How did you not know? Anyways, yeah, it makes sense. Although I'm excited to watch a new documentary about Paul Rubens. Love that.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, we're not joking here, because this is no ill, not saying any of this for any ill intent towards Paul Rubens or anything like that. Just that this is in the news. Pee Wee Herman was mentioned because I love, as you know, my friend.
Yes, I do. Yeah, this is true.
I love me some Pee Wee Herman. Loved him. Loved the show as a kid. Loved the movies as a kid. I had the Pee Wee Herman pajamas, and I grew out of them, and my mom just cut the feet off, and I kept wearing them because I wasn't going to stop. Loved Pee Wee's Playhouse, the TV show, which is just, I showed it to my wife recently, and she's like, this is like a fever dream. And I'm like, it's fantastic. I don't know what you're talking about. It's nothing but love for the guy. But I'm just when I saw this news, I was like, oh, we didn't know that.
Yeah,
It's kind of like it's kind of like my mom once. I was talking to her about Elton John, and she just stopped for a second and just kind of thought and said, "I can't believe we didn't know he was gay." She just kind of said that because the way the man dressed, come on,
yeah.
But nothing but love for Paul Rubens or Sir Elton John.
Absolutely. Elton John's like first 6 albums are all fire.
Yeah, and you might even say that Saturday Night is all right for fighting. Where when we come back from a commercial break, Tony tells us that Jeff Jarrett is going to be wrestling Conan. Rey Mysterio is going to battle one of the Villanos. And Ice Train's wrestling Super Callo on Saturday night.
I wanted to say more about Pee-wee, but that segue was so perfect. I got to keep rolling with you.
I know. We just got to get a little action in, my friend. And that's why we've got Prince Iaukea versus Lord Steven Regal for the World Television Championship. And I got to tell you here, 3 minutes, 32 seconds, we get ourselves an upset, don't we?
We do. Gene interviews Regal as he comes out. Iaukea has already come out. By the way, real quickly, we have seen Prince Iaukea a few times, and then he just kind of disappeared. And I was like, oh, okay. So this will actually be a run where we start to see him pretty regularly. And you'll definitely find out why in a second. But he comes out first, and then Regal comes out, and Gene interviews him. And Regal says he said weeks ago he would fight anyone in any arena, and he's done just that, which is technically true. He points to Prince Iaukea and says he will get his chance tonight, and good for him. He then says, now let's get to Rey Mysterio Jr. because they have a match at Super Brawl. After last week's woeful performance, now let's face facts. If he had been one-on-one with 7 dwarves, he'd have been bloody dopey, wouldn't he? He should stay at home with the other bloody 6 and Snow White and do some thinking, sunshine. Because if you get in the ring with me, you won't be 5'4" anymore, because I'll stretch you that bloody far that they'll be able to make a handrail for the Great Wall of China with you. Then Gene asks if he has any further thoughts, and Regal says, any further thoughts? When you're in as perfect physical condition that I'm in, 18 stone, 2 pounds, what more thoughts do I need? Then he walks to the ring. So real quickly, before we get into the match, this promo is fantastic. You and I both love Regal and everything he says. But my favorite part of this is he's kind of done, but he makes like this weird movement, and then he's not really sure if he wants to go or finish. So Gene gives him the option to speak again. And so when he speaks again, he realizes he doesn't have anything more to say, which is why he brings up like the physical condition and, his 18 stone, 2 pounds. And it's hilarious because you could just see him in that moment go, oh, this was a mistake. But he rolls with it anyways. Regal mimes fighting the fans as they chant Regal sucks. Regal gets distracted eventually by Rey Mysterio Jr. And as he showboats, Prince Iaukea rolls him up for a 3 count and is the new TV champion. Regal is upset and he pushes referee Mark Curtis, who pushes him back. This is odd booking, I will say, because why wouldn't you keep that title on Regal for Sunday? That doesn't really make any sense to me. However, wildly entertaining with all 3 people involved and the promo before it, so I'm giving it a B anyways.
Well, because Regal's a cruiserweight, I guess.
This isn't a cruiserweight championship.
Yeah, what I'm saying, but I'm saying he's going Sunday, to wrestle Rey Mysterio because he's got to get into that cruiserweight championship running or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of it. Something else they mentioned during the match, though, is that, because you may be wondering, there's supposedly this tape.
Yeah.
NWO claims they got a tape, and where is the tape? Well, turns out it's a compact VHS. And they're trying to find an adapter, which I just kind of laughed out loud.
I did too. I'm so glad you wrote that down because I forgot to.
And for the listeners who may be a little bit on the younger side, who maybe don't remember this, you probably remember what a VHS is. You've probably seen a VHS tape. But what you maybe don't know is that handheld video cameras had, they had tapes in them. And some had full-size VHSs, but at some point they came up with a smaller, kind of more handheld camera. And it had this little cassette tape in it. And then you would take that little cassette tape and you'd put it into this VHS, it was like this empty VHS tape that had like a little door. And you'd open the door and you'd put your little cassette in it. And then you'd put that the little cassette inside a bigger VHS cassette into your VHS player, and that would play it for you. So that's apparently what's happened here. They filmed it on this film is from a compact VHS, and they're trying to find something that they can fit in to their their stuff in the back. I thought it was kind of fun. It's like, okay,
also thinking about that, like how absurd that concept is. Like, like in order to compare that to today's standards, the best thing I can think of off the top of my head, having done zero thought in this, is like if you really wanted to watch a video on your phone, but on your TV. So instead of just, casting it to your TV, like if you had to put your phone into like a PlayStation and that was connected to your TV and then you could watch it.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect sense. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, but not as exciting as hour number 2 with Tony, Bobby, and now Mike Tenay. Yeah, after that though, we got a match, and we got a Randy Anderson and Nick Patrick, and they're going at it. What? What is this? And it lasts 43 seconds.
Hold on. Let's be fair. This makes perfect sense. Last week, Nick Patrick wanted Randy Anderson wanted his job back, also known as Pee Wee Herman, wanted his job back. And, Bischoff said, okay, I will give you the opportunity to get your job back, but you have to wrestle Nick Patrick. And so that's why we have this match. So Nick Patrick, by the way, who you and I love and adore in his time in the NWO, Nick Patrick comes out in a cut-off sleeve ref t-shirt. It's so douchey and great. And he taunts Anderson and his family, and he's taunting them to the camera. Then when the match starts, the ref actually hands the actual ref who was reffing the two refs, hands Randy Anderson a foreign object. And after Patrick taunts him and Anderson, and he's kind of trying to punch Anderson, but Anderson's kind of bobbing and weaving a little bit, he just clocks him with this foreign object, and he covers him for the 1, 2, 3. Bischoff runs out irate. He comes down with the mic and he shouts, "What do you think you're doing?" to the other ref, the third nameless ref. He wants to see the foreign object. He says, he goes to referee Randy Anderson, says, "You used to be a referee. You should have, more, integrity than this," or whatever. And he goes, "You just want a permanent vacation." Then he looks at the ref who refed the refs and says, "You are fired." And then he tells them both to leave the building. And I loved every moment of this and gave it an A+.
Nick Patrick just sells the hell out of things. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I found it kind of interesting that this was the match, though, right? Because Randy Anderson wants his job back, and they say, okay, you got to wrestle Nick Patrick. Why wrestle Nick Patrick? It seems like it would have been, they should have done like, you got to wrestle like the Giant or something, right? But I guess it gets you this swerve of Randy Anderson wins, but then he gets it reversed because Eric Bischoff claims that he used brass knuckles and all that, and it just, poor Randy Anderson. The man had cancer and he's got children to feed. What are they doing to this poor guy? It's good. It actually is pretty good stuff, because I would say Nick Patrick and Randy Anderson is pretty good in this stuff too. I really feel sympathetic for the guy. Like he's good at making me feel bad for him. After that though, it's a friggin' whiplash. We do a 180 because we're down, because we're feeling bad for Randy Anderson. And then we're right back up because Lee Marshall's in San Francisco.
Absolutely.
And he's got a Nitro party where he can see Alcatraz from. And he says, get your tickets. And also, Atlanta, get your tickets. And it sounds like Lee's just seeing everything. He's going to Weaselman's Wharf. He's going to have some Weasel-roni, the San Francisco treat. He's doing it all. I loved it. What'd you think?
I love it. I love that Bobby after says that Tony Bennett should heave Lee off the Golden Gate Bridge. Just a playful amount of murder, that's all.
We've got the VHS, and we see it. They play it. And I kind of feel like the NWO might have caused this crash. Don't you think, Joseph?
So, I mean, yes and no. So Kevin Nash is driving. Hall is in the passenger seat, and Six is recording from the back seat. They see the Steiners come out of a convenience store, and they decide to stalk them. Funny moment, some woman like sees them with the camera and that they're stalking and is like clearly concerned. And they kind of have to play it off like, oh, no, you're good. Don't worry about it. Because she's like, am I about to call the cops right now? It's hilarious. Anyways, they decide to fuck with the Steiners, and they're traveling behind them in their cars. They decide to give them a little love tap, and the Steiners start screaming at them in their car. They then show Rick Steiner lose control of his vehicle and overturn. Now, this is a while after the love tap. This isn't like the love tap immediately led to this. They both start kind of traveling side by side, and Steiners are screaming at them, and then Rick loses control. Now, one thing I love about this is there is a very clever editing technique they do, which is they show him get ahead of Hall, Nash, and Six. And so they get ahead when they were side by side, and the camera, as it's moving over, has to move beyond a seat that blocks the camera's view. So they cut at that moment, and then you see whoever the stunt driver is flipping the car. It's fucking beautiful production level. It really is. Like, I was so fucking impressed by it. And then the outsiders are like, what should we do? And they're just like, cheese it. And then they just fucking run. They just drive away. It's an A+. I love every moment of it.
It's just insane. You and I, when we first watched this, laughed so much because this is supposedly the tape that exonerates them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The NWO is the ones that gave us this tape to watch. And they're saying this totally proves we didn't do it. And they rear-ended them off the road.
Technically, they rear-ended them, and then much later, they went off the road.
Well, yeah, because the Steiners are driving fast, trying to get away from them, and they lose control, right? Like, they totally caused this. Why are you showing us this tape? So we go to commercial after they show us the tape, and we come back, and there's the commentary table is just speechless. How? And they're kind of asking the same thing, like the outsiders, and they did this. This is criminal. What? Why would they do this? It's fantastic. It's so good. And then they can't believe it. And then we go into our next match, which is Kevin Sullivan versus. Hold on, let me put my peepers on. Oh, did I miss one? Did I miss a match?
You did, but it's a bad match that plays nothing into it. So I was just gonna let us go on.
Well, yeah, so there's Benoit and, hold on, let me put on my peepers. Roadblock, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. And then Kevin Sullivan versus, hold on, let me put on my peepers. Doc Dean, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. I think they kind of go together because of the whole Benoit Sullivan thing. So I'll let you talk about them as a group.
Sure. During the Roadblock Benoit match, George Steinbrenner's in the crowd. The Steinbrenner, so this must be connected to him because it is George Steinbrenner. Yankees fans claim he's one of the best owners in sports history. He isn't. He actually had no clue what he was doing, and the most prosperous time in his tenure came because he was suspended by Major League Baseball, so he couldn't stop his GM from developing homegrown players like Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera, and Andy Pettitte. Steinbrenner predominantly traded young players for aging veterans, and that's what created the dark period of the mid-'80s through the mid-'90s. He's kind of like a white Artie Moreno. Meanwhile, this match exists. This match exists, and Benoit hits a diving headbutt for the win. That gets a D. Moving on to the Kevin Sullivan one against whoever the fuck he's going against. Gene interviews Sullivan, and I actually rolled my eyes and said, oh my God, when he came out, apparently at Super Brawl, he and Benoit are going to have a match, and Jacqueline Woman will be strapped together, and Jimmy Hart seemingly no longer has a problem with Jacqueline because bad booking. Sullivan talks about how he was alone or some shit. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Sullivan beats whoever the fuck. That gets an F.
Eddie Guerrero and Conan for a palate cleanse. 6 minutes, 4 seconds for the WCW United States Championship.
Conan apparently doesn't feel that Eddie is actually from the streets. So they saw what Farouk and Ahmed Johnson were doing and went, hell yeah. The faces of fear interfere. When it looks like Eddie is going to win and Conan gets DQ'd, then Jericho comes to rescue. Okay, get to see. It's fine, I guess.
I guess you could say that Conan thinks Eddie is a Tío Tomás.
That is such a great. It took me a second to realize what you were doing. Jesus Christ.
Give me a golf clap, bro. Give me a golf clap, man.
It won't pick up on the mic.
I know it won't, but yeah, because that's what Farouk keeps calling Ahmed and Uncle Tom. So,
I had to go. Okay, so he's saying Uncle Thomas. Why is he saying Uncle Thomas? Oh, Uncle Tom. What a fucking joke. That's so stupid.
Uncle Tío Tomás over here, Eddie Guerrero. Anyways, we keep rolling. We got the Giant versus, let me call my peepers, Top Gun and Johnny Swinger in a 2-on-1 handicap match that goes all of 40 seconds.
I gotta tell you that you're wrong. We actually have a 4 Horsemen interview.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
I kind of like those anymore, though. Why don't you talk about that and then talk about this 40-second match?
Sure. My first note is I don't think I'm strong enough to talk about this. Flair says all the same things he has said. Arn randomly calls out NWO. What? Where did this all come from? Like, Arn does well, but this wasn't the rivalry. Arn does say he has $100,000 lying around somewhere. Randy Anderson is welcome to it. He also name drops Randy Anderson as Pee-wee. He calls him that. So that's kind of the let you know that that's actually a nickname for him backstage. I do like him saying Randy Anderson is welcome to the $100,000 so he can support his family. Good guy, Arn. Mongo then calls Dungeon of Doom losers, and he says he will beat Jarrett at Super Brawl. Deborah gets booed when she opens her mouth. Then Benoit talks about Sullivan, and I'm just ready to move on. It gets Neff. Going on to the Giant versus 2 who the fuck ever guys. Giant wins. You might be surprised. Giant spray paints Hall and Nash's names on the opponents and then crosses them out. Gene interviews Giant and Luger. Giant says he is facing the outsiders, but he thinks Luger has something to tell him. Luger says for a change, he has some good news. He has searched far and wide and has medical clearance to wrestle at the pay-per-view. Bischoff comes out and says he doesn't know what this is, but he is about 167 hours 54 minutes and 30 seconds late. He told Luger last week he had to have clearance before Bischoff left the country and then came back, which is true. That actually is accurate storytelling. That is exactly what he said. The 2 argue and Bischoff says he won't wrestle. Luger calls him a pathetic little creature. Luger says Bischoff can't prevent him from flying to San Francisco if he buys his own plane ticket, rents his own car, books his own hotel. There are a lot of things you can't control this upcoming weekend. Really fucking creative line from Luger. Bischoff asks if that is a threat because he can't fire him, and then both men walk towards Bischoff, who runs. I liked this segment. It's not amazing, but it is quite good. I gave it a B.
One of Luger's better promos for sure. After that, though, we come back from a break, and we got Rowdy Roddy Piper in a Cell at Alcatraz for just kind of a bonkers promo. Tell me about it.
Look, this cannot be explained. This has to be experienced. Essentially, Piper acts like a deranged prisoner in Alcatraz, and it's brilliant. This is absurd, and I love it, especially when he calls Hogan Spandex Man, and then when he does push-ups randomly like he's actually in prison when he's not actually in prison. It gets an A+. I cannot describe anything in any more detail. I strongly suggest you just go find it. It's online. You can find it pretty easily. Go find it and watch it.
It's nuts, and yeah. I'm ready, and it makes me ready for Super Brawl, where I'm going to get mad.
Yeah.
After that, though, we get our main event, which is kind of a weird one. Chris Jericho versus Jeff Jarrett. I didn't know these guys had heat. Anyways, 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Yeah, Deborah comes down, and eventually so does Mongo, who's annoyed by Deborah. Deborah goes to distract Jericho and asks him not to hurt Jarrett. Deborah has the ref distracted while Jarrett has the figure 4 lock in. And then Mongo hits Jarrett with the Halliburton and Jericho wins. Then he and Deborah argue. It gets a C. I understand the storytelling they're doing. It's fine, I guess. It's not amazing. The match itself wasn't amazing. The ending was whatever.
Yeah, man. It's all right. But let's move on. Because we got the WWF from Nashville, Tennessee at the Nashville Arena. Really clever name there that they got. And we just start straight off the bat. We got a match. We got the WWF World Championship on the line here.
I gotta pull you back.
Whoa!
We got a Hogan promo.
Whoa, did we in there? We got to keep moving. I don't care about Hogan promos. Go ahead, Jesus.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, they've been talking about Nitro for a long time, you're actually right. Like, yes, we've digressed, and those things will probably be on the longer version on Patreon, $2 a month. However, this episode of Nitro is absurdly long. Like, they easily did 2.5, 3 hours for this week for whatever reason. It's longer when you go on Peacock and actually go and see the times. It is longer. It's ridiculous. I don't know why they did this. I don't know who allowed them to do this. But you mentioned it's got to be a record for matches. It's not, but I think it might be a record for segments because this is the, to my count, 20th fucking segment. By the end of this show, I was actually mad and like, please fucking end already. So here's how we end. Hogan comes out. He's with Bischoff and Miss Elizabeth. That'll come into play next pay-per-view. Hogan poses and Bischoff says he loves the fans in Hollywood. He says the rest of the world is afraid of Piper, but Hogan isn't. Hogan poses again. Then Hogan says everyone knows Piper is nuts to get back in the ring with him. Then Piper is lying to the people and his kids. Then Sting and Mott show up on the stage. They just stare. Sting eventually walks down, but Mott stops him and shakes his head, and then they both leave. Hogan says some more nonsense when the show ends. What a waste of the use of Sting and Mott. Like, this made no sense to bring them in. It was absolutely, the crowd got real hot, and then they did nothing with them, and it was like, oh, okay, bad. It gets a D. It's a horrible end of the show.
Raw. And we start right away. We've got a match. We've got the match.
Absolutely.
Versus Bret Hart versus Psycho Sid, the man, the master of the universe. Sid gets fireworks. This thing's really going. We're getting it. Oh, wait. No, it's not going.
I will say this is actually quite creative.
And this is fun. This is fun. Tell me.
Yes, number one, it's fun, but it's also creative for a reason that I will talk about later on in the night. So the match starts, like you said, Sid gets all the hubbub and hullabaloo. It's great. It's fantastic. And Bret Hart, he comes out and Steve Austin immediately attacks him. And Sid actually helps Bret because he's like, bro, this is my match. Get the fuck out of here. Austin attacks Sid's knee, and then Bret jumps Austin. Sid is writhing in pain, screaming, damn it, because he feels like he just lost his title match. The refs pause the match that never started, and they check on Sid. We get a recap of Shawn losing his smile and of In Your House Final Four. In the locker room, Kevin Kelly interviews Sid, who shouts, shut up. Even if my leg was broken, not sleet, not snow, rain, or high water, or Stone Cold Steve Austin will stop me from getting to my destiny, and that's becoming the World Wrestling Federation champion. It's announced that this match will still happen later in the show. I loved every moment of this. It gets an A.
Absolutely. After that, though, we go straight into the next match. We got Mark Merrow versus Savio Vega. Tell me.
It's announced that Ahmed Johnson has been released from the hospital. Sable beats the shit out of one of the members of PG-13, and then Sable gets chased in the ring, and the ref calls the disqualification on the Nation of Domination. They surround Merrow, and Ahmed Johnson storms in with his 2x4 to scare them off. It's fine, I suppose. It gets a C.
Yeah, go, do. I mean, it's hot, man. Ahmed's back. And then they show it again because it was so good. They had to show it again, like right after.
Absolutely.
So we see Ahmed with the 2x4 scaring everybody away. He's back. Then JR interviews Bret Hart in the back about what the hell just happened, right? Tell me.
Bret is asked about Stone Cold, and he says, it feels like every time I turn around, Austin is sticking his nose in my business. I can't do much about it, so I might as well get used to it. Honestly, kind of like the line. He says that Psycho Sid has a tough fight ahead of him, but there will be no excuses. When he beats him, he'll look to the next match and the next match. The interview actually should have stopped here, but they keep asking Bret Hart useless questions, that make this meander. I actually don't blame Brett on this. It's not his fault. He had a very clear interview. He gave great answers, and then they just keep going. And you can kind of see him like forced to be like, oh, I gotta do more now. Like the point's been made. So I gave it a B. This would have been a Bret Hart A promo for me, but the interview ruins it.
But they won't let him finish.
Yeah.
They clearly haven't been listening to the pod because they would have known to stop it at the beginning.
Yeah.
We keep rolling, though. I will tell you, WWF doing a tighter show.
Absolutely.
Because we just keep rolling. We got our next match, Rocky Maivia versus Leif Cassidy for the Intercontinental Championship. Tell me.
Sunny comes out after Rocky does, and she flirts with him a little bit. She's the guest timekeeper for reasons. They also highlight her being the most downloaded photo on AOL. We've already talked about old shit. We do not have time to talk about that. They don't highlight what was done with that photo, and I'll leave that right there. Hunter is in picture and asks about Rocky, who he says is the luckiest punk in the world. He says he couldn't beat him again in a million years, saying Rocky couldn't beat himself. He defines the IC title as his and that he's coming back for it. JR then asks him about last night against Goldust. Hunter says he got distracted and that's why Goldust won, but they do have a score to settle. WWF is clearly hot on Rocky and the crowd is clearly over him at this point. The match itself is okay, nothing amazing, and Rocky wins with the shoulder breaker, worst fucking finisher in WWF right now. There are ECW signs around Jerry, and Jerry invites ECW to show up next week because he thinks they are goofs. Side note, goof is my new favorite word. I've heard it like 12 times in the last 2 weeks. Good to see.
The Jerry Lawler thing is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Though, because there's a kid with an ECW rules sign and Jerry grabs it. And then he just goes on this weird tirade about that ECW sucks and that they should come here. And they're like the movie Escape from New York, where they're just a bunch of misfits and has-beens. And then he talks about WCW taking away they had some Jerry Lawler signs, I guess, at some show, and they took them away from people, and freedom of speech. And there's just a whole lot here, and I have no idea what's going on. But Jerry said it. It's all there. So I don't know, man. Jerry just standing up for truth, justice, and the American way, I guess. Free speech. I don't know. After that, though, apparently Jesse James, the Godwins, and Hillbilly Jim showed up on a show called Prime Time Country, which is on TNN. So there's that.
Was that the national network? Is that what that was? TNN?
No, I think it's the Tennessee TNN. I'll Google it.
Because TNN's where Raw eventually goes.
It's the Nashville network.
Oh.
It might be I don't know. Yeah. No, I don't know. So yeah, they were on TNN, which apparently is like a country channel. At least it is at this point.
Okay, hold on here. The Nashville network is true. That's true. At the time, though, there was a TNN that referred to the national network, which is what eventually became Spike TV.
Oh, I assume this is the Nashville network because it's prime time
makes
country.
Sense,
Yeah. After that, though, we got Kevin Kelly talking with Goldust. Tell me about it.
He asks about Hunter's obsession with Marlena. I mean, how can you not, though?
Is he wrong?
Yeah, I get it. Goldust grabs the mic and says everyone knows he is from the hills of Hollywood, which is just the worst way of saying Hollywood Hills ever. But this is not the hills of Hollywood, is it? This is reality. And Hunter hears Helmsley, now this is personal. Because of the indecent proposal you have made towards my Marlena is uncalled for, and you have crossed the line. All the money in the world couldn't buy Marlena. The only way you can get closer to her is over my dead body. Kevin Kelly asked Marlena about her feelings. She wants to clear up that there has been speculation about Goldust's masculinity. She says they play a lot of games, but he is all man. Jerry says she says that like she knows from experience. Yeah, no shit, Jerry. That's the fucking point. She says he is more of a man than Hunter ever will be. Hunter comes to the ring, but stays on the outside. Hunter splashes water on Goldust, then attacks him. Marlena moves out of the way, while Hunter beats Goldust up, and he hits the pedigree. Marlena then slaps Hunter when Chyna runs in and bear hugs Marlena and just absolutely wrecks her. China gets taken away by security as Goldust checks on Marlena, who is kind of lifeless on the floor. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this. I gave this a B.
Yeah, overall, good promo. A good promo. Next up, though, we got a match between the Headbangers and some team we've never heard of before. Hold on, let me put on my peepers here. The Hardy Boys?
Yeah, they probably won't do much.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to come of them, but tell me about this squash match.
This is those Hardy Boys. They are here to fill in as a jobber opportunity. They are not signed by the WWF. In fact, I think Jeff is only like 17 at the time. They don't look like the Hardy Boys that we will come to love. And I believe that this time they have their own promotion. I believe it's called Omega Wrestling, which is where they kind of get their names out. Nation of Domination get a picture-in-picture. JR says he thinks they can't finish Ahmed Johnson. Farouk says that Ahmed Johnson is a fraud and doesn't know the streets. There we go again. He says that Ahmed Johnson is in hell and Farouk is the devil. Then he challenges Ahmed Johnson to a Chicago street fight. And then the Headbangers win, as we knew they would. The Headbangers match with Hardy Boys is fine. Get to see. The Nation of Domination stuff is whatever. Moving on.
Jeff was 20, so he is of legal age. So nothing nefarious going on here, I guess, at least.
Maybe it was when he first ever, because they've been on here before.
Yes, separately. Yeah, as an individual. Yeah. I think this is the first time we've seen them together as a tag team, though.
I think you're correct about that, yeah. Because I feel like Jeff wrestled Razor Ramon when he was like 17. I remember that being a story of some sort.
Yeah, because we've definitely seen Jeff and we've seen Matt, but not together. So there you go. And you know what's even more exciting is as they go to commercial break, they say we're getting our championship match finally. We're coming back from the break, and we're getting Psycho Sid and we're getting Bret Hart. We come back from the break, and oh, damn it, Stone Cold. Tell me.
While Bret was walking in the back, Austin attacked him. Gorilla Monsoon says we will have a title defense, but even later in the night now. Now, I'm going to go into why I like this so much. This is a very interesting strategy because they're clearly trying to keep you watching the whole night. They started with it. They know people have been turning over to Nitro. So you start with it. Everybody thinks they're going to get it. Oh, you're not getting it. You got to come back a little bit later in the night. Okay. You're going to get it now. No, you're not getting it. You're going to get it even later. So it's forcing you to watch the whole show to see this big match. I think that's a brilliant strategy. It's entertaining as all hell. It gets an A from me.
Yeah, it's fun. And that's clearly what they're doing because Monsoon even makes a comment about how unlike other like promotions or other shows or whatever, you're getting a title match tonight. He makes that point, right? He doesn't say who. He just says, if you decide to flip the channel to something else, you're not getting a title match there. So keep watching. They know exactly what they're doing. But I think this is really fun. And you and I, when we were watching this, saying, man, this should go on the whole night where they keep trying to start this match, then Stone Cold interferes and stops it. And that's what they're doing. It's fantastic. They listened, and we appreciate it. After that, though, we get Owen Hart and Flash Funk. Tell me about that one.
Paul Heyman is on the phone to talk to Jerry Lawler. Paul E. says, unlike Vince McMahon, I don't need to hide behind representatives. This is the owner, operator, and executive producer of Extreme Championship Wrestling. Paul E., Paul Heyman, dangerously, call me what you like, but see me next Monday at the Manhattan Center along with all the athletes at Extreme Championship Wrestling. Who, as uneducated as you may be, you claim to never have heard of. Jerry asks if he's accepting his challenge. The two argue as Jerry downplays ECW. Jerry never liked ECW and has even in years since kind of taken credit for ECW, saying that what he did in his Memphis promotion made it possible for Paul Heyman. Jerry is a goof. We then get an interview with Austin, who is asked, who asked the interviewees, being JR, what do they want? JR asks, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? Gorilla Monsoon says, I'm this far from going over the edge. I'm about this far from whooping his ass. He makes up the Final Four match, of which I'm a participant, and that was never supposed to happen. I won the Royal Rumble fair and square by throwing 29 pieces of trash over the top rope. There ain't no such thing as the instant replay rule in WWF. Shawn Michaels got a little hurt knee, so he quits. By all rights, that should make me the WWF champion, and that's the bottom line. You hold me back. This whole organization holds me back because I ain't full of glitz and glamour and big smiles for all the publicity shots. The bottom line is I'm opening up a whole keg of whoop ass and I'm serving it up to everybody in the WWF. And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Meanwhile, there's been a match going on this whole time. Bulldog hits Funk in the back of the head with the slammy and Owen wins. Then they argue with each other, which is kind of confusing. Overall, I'm giving it a B, but a weird end to that match.
The reason the Stone Cold stuff is working so well is because, like you and I have talked about in the past, he's not wrong, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He should be the number one contender. He won the Royal Rumble. There is no instant replay. The ref's decision is the decision. And now that Shawn has vacated the title because he lost his smile, it should belong to Stone Cold. He's not wrong, which I think is what makes him so fun here and what has made Jim Cornette's villains and all that sort of stuff good too. Because it's like, yeah, I can kind of see where they're coming from. It makes sense. After that, we got Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Bartholomew Gunn. And we get some stills from the pay-per-view where this unnamed behemoth of a woman, some might even call her the seventh wonder of the world, chokes Marlena. Who is this?
So on that note, JR asks Hunter if he is associated with this woman, and Hunter says he doesn't care. He has no idea who she is. Goldust then chases Hunter through the crowd, and Hunter gets counted out. I gave this a C+. Not much of a match, but it is entertaining. It does continue their rivalry, and so I'm pretty hyped about that.
Then we go to a surgeon. We're told he's esteemed. He's very good at what he does. Orthopedic surgeon. And we want to know what's going on with Shawn Michaels. And it turns out Shawn Michaels might be okay. After all that he barely doesn't need surgery, might just need some rehab, and he could possibly come back. And what has it been, a week? 2?
Yeah. Well, this does line up with exactly what Shawn said, which was he went to his doctor. His doctor said there's no fucking way. And then he went to the person that Vince recommended, who's the same person who will help Stone Cold in a few weeks when Stone Cold tweaks his knee. And they end up rehabbing together. And so this is what happens. He got told, I got to retire. So he's doing that. And then whether you believe him or not, he's doing that. And then a week later, he gets told, no, go to this guy. And I can't remember his name. I had it in the last podcast. And this guy who's the one on screen.
Andrews.
Yes. Thank you. And James Andrews tells him, like, no, we could rehab it. You'll be fine. Yes, you have no ACL, but we should be able to make this work. Which, by the way, is actually a real thing. Like, if we're going to talk about just like sports injuries, like you can lose an ACL and still go on it. It just really depends on what your pain tolerance is. There was a pitcher in on the Yankees, I believe. It was a Japanese pitcher. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And he actually tore the ligaments in his elbow. And normally that is needs Tommy John surgery when you do that, which is at the time was like you are done. Your career is probably over surgery. Or you may come back, but you're not going to be nearly as good as you were. And he pitched with that completely dislocated elbow for the rest of his career because his pain tolerance was so high. He could keep doing what he needed to do and never went to have surgery.
You know, I believe it because that New Japan wrestling, those dudes have an insanely high pain tolerance. They're doing crazy shit all the time. So that must just be a Japanese thing. Yeah. Kind of like the Samoans got hard heads that Japanese apparently have just insane pain tolerances. So I don't know. But now, Joseph, if you will allow me, our main event. Bret Hart versus Psycho Sid. Is it though? Let's find out. Tell me, does it happen? Oh
no, we missed a Hogan promo.
I don't want to talk about Hogan.
I'm just messing. We finally get this match, and it is a true main event. This is a good match as Bret Hart looks to chop down Psycho Sid by attacking his knees, including doing the figure 4 on the ring post spot, which I know you love. Steve Austin interferes, but Sid punches him away. Bret locks in the sharpshooter, and Sid does not tap out. Austin hits Bret over the head with a steel chair, and the ref doesn't see it based off of his positioning, and it is a thunderous hit, by the way. Austin always swung that thing like a madman. Sid hits the powerbomb for the win and is your new WWF World Heavyweight Champion. Taker's music hits, and he comes to the ring, and we have a stare down to close the show between the two men who will presumably face each other at WrestleMania. A+, I loved every bit of it. I thought putting the title on Brett made a lot of sense, even though it was only for 24 hours. Getting him to lose a title immediately makes a white-hot rivalry continue between him and Austin, and Taker versus Sid makes a lot of sense for your main event at the pay-per-view. I like every single direction of this. Having to pivot so quickly after the whole Shawn Michaels news, I think they've done an excellent job.
And I like this is kind of an iconic, I mean, it's not really iconic. I think I'm overusing iconic here, but the way they end this episode also is just really great. Because as you said, Sid wins, big deal, but Undertaker comes out because he's the next guy up. That's the next rivalry. Sid lays the belt on, Undertaker comes into the ring. Sid lays the belt on the mat, like between them, and Undertaker just keeps staring at him. And it just ends with these two guys just locked in a stare down. I thought it was a great way to end it. Really good night for WWF. But WCW was pretty fun too. This is a hard one. What do you think tonight?
I think this is no contest. Raw won.
Even with the video evidence from WCW?
WCW had some great moments, right? The DDP promo, the video evidence thing. You're absolutely right. But it was a sloppy show outside of that. And it was a fucking long show. It was almost 3 hours. Like, it was insane how much time. I mean, technically it's not in all things, but when you add in commercials and stuff, that's what you were getting at, is about a 3-hour program. That show was a complete slog to get through. And I love the Piper stuff. I love the Piper promo, but there was so much just mess in between. It was not tight. This episode of Raw was, frankly, really good the whole way through, had a lot of storylines moving forward, and was super tight. And you had one through line the entire episode with the Austin stuff. I think this is a way better program.
Probably the best booked Raw we've ever seen.
Wow.
I mean, is it not?
I don't have enough evidence to disagree with you. Let's put it that way.
Because nothing's coming to mind. I mean, obviously, this is right now. This is in my memory, so I can't remember all 80 something episodes we've done at this point. But you're right. It's tight from start to finish. I like the way they're handling the Shawn stuff. The Stone Cold interrupting the championship match because he's rightfully mad is good. I thought even the jobber matches were pretty good. Like, I feel like Rocky Maivia versus Leif Cassidy, like, I feel like they're kind of on the same level. Like, I don't feel like that's a jobber match. I feel like Leif Cassidy could have won the Intercontinental Championship, and I would have been like, yeah, okay.
Also, real quick on that, I like the IC title getting defended on Raw. Like, that needs to be happening constantly. It's the working man's title for a reason. So that made me real happy.
And I mean, we got to see the Hardy Boys for the first time. I mean, yeah, it's a squash match, but it's the Hardy Boys.
True.
And even the Owen Hart Flash Funk match, which isn't, I mean, both these guys are great, but it was really just a vehicle for what was going on. Same thing with the Bart Gunn, Hunter Hearst Helmsley match, but they were all woven together really well. All the matches served a purpose. It was tight. That said, Nitro, the crash video is hilarious. The Piper stuff is insane. I liked a lot of it, but I think you're right. I think Raw or Nitro was messy. It seemed to be really long. I'll take your word that it was longer than normal, but it just seemed to be long because I don't remember. Raw was tight. I think Raw wins it. I think you're right. I think this is the second time we've given it to Raw.
And more importantly, you're right because you agreed with me.
And you're not wrong.
That's beautiful, man.
And that does it for us. Thank you again for listening. We so appreciate your support. We're glad you like this because we're glad someone likes it because we're doing it. And we've got a pay-per-view coming up. So if you want to hear us ramble about that, it's $2 a month on the Patreon. See you next time. I'm Scott. As always, with me is Joseph. Thank you for listening to the Monday Night Wars podcast.
This episode's probably going to be a long episode too on the Patreon, $2 a month. Bye, guys.
What a salesman.
Hey, everybody, it's Joseph. And guess what?
Not only can you listen to us every Monday on Spotify, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Podcasts as well. Just search for Monday Night Wars Podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at MON Night Wars Pod, on Instagram at Monday Night Wars Podcast, or just email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, subscribe to our Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For $2 a month, you get every pay-per-view from WCW and WWF during this era, as well as additional content later on. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you here next time on the Monday Night Wars Podcast.